Hello and welcome back to the Love Machine podcast, the place to be if you're ready to transform your love life and take charge of your romantic future. I'm your host, James Preece, and in today's empowering episode, we're diving into one of the most painful yet transformational subjects in the world of dating: heartbreak, how to move on, and how to get ready to date again. Now, I know that heartbreak can feel like the end of the world, but here's the truth: it can actually be the beginning of something much better. Did you know that according to a recent study, nearly 72% of people say they became more self-aware and resilient after a major breakup? That's quite powerful to know. And to help us unpack this today, I've invited a true expert in love and transformation, Elena Sachs, an international matchmaker and science-based dating coach who helps high-caliber, international-minded singles find extraordinary love. She's the founder of Match Maison, a luxury matchmaking agency working across Zurich, Geneva, and London. And she's here to guide you through the healing process and into your next best chapter. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, want to understand how to heal properly, and you are curious about when and how you meet someone brand new, this episode is for you. You can bounce back from heartbreak, I promise you, and you might just come out stronger, more confident, and more magnetic than ever before. Elena, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for
I'm
having me. I'm doing very well,
keen to
thank
speak to you today
you.
about this topic. It's come up a few times on the podcast about heartbreak, but it's like an evergreen topic, isn't it? People get heartbreak and then they want to move on and then they come back to us to start again. So first of all, can I just ask you how you became a matchmaker? How did that all start for you?
Yes, for me, it was also a really personal journey. So I was also, when I was single, I was also really looking at different options, where to meet people and how to meet people. And of course, matchmaking is really a great opportunity to also meet like-minded people that are also like international minded and also serious about a relationship. So that's why I really came into matchmaking and also find out that it's really something I want to do personally and also do this
Amazing. So you
profession
must
and
enjoy
started a
doing it.
business in it. Absolutely, yes. It's really also the best when you see clients happy in relationships. I was just catching up this week with two of my clients, and they were together for 2 months now. So really still very young relationship, but also very exciting. In the beginning, it's always extremely exciting. And of
Yeah,
course,
two
I'm also
months, you're
very
getting
happy
towards
for
something a bit more
them.
serious, and they're going to start to define things. So that's great. That's wonderful. Obviously, you're good at what you do. I work with matchmakers all over the world. I don't really know anyone who does it in Switzerland, not on a sort of personal level. So it's really good to have you today. I've seen what you've been up to, and I've seen the amount of work that you put into this, and how hard you try to get matches for your clients. So that's something fantastic. So I think we're going to have a great topic of conversation today. Now, heartbreak. Let's start with the heartbreak.
Yes.
What do you think that does in terms of your mindset? If someone's going through a heartbreak now, because I see it as an obstacle to people. They think, I'm never going to move on. I'm panicking now. This is all my hopes and dreams absolutely crushed. So, what do you think is the most destroying things when it comes to heartbreak?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, I believe it's really also important to recognize that it's a really highly personal journey. So every heartbreak is really also different, and people come out of relationships in a different state of minds. And there's also different reason for heartbreak. So for instance, around 20% actually break up because of one partner cheating. And then, of course, this can also have an influence on your self-confidence and also on your self-worth. So you might compare also yourself with the other person with whom your partner cheated on you, or even also when you have another big bracket when people break up is around 30% people break up because they were just losing interest. And this could also be a really, really difficult reason to get over the heartbreak and also understand the heartbreak, because in a lot of cases we also then feel it is about ourselves, or we really lose this confidence. Of course, there's like also many different other reasons, but I would say generally speaking, it is really an mistake or can be an issue for everyone, or is for all of us, that we lose this confidence in ourselves and always portray everything on us. We blame ourselves. So this is really a mistake we could make when
Yeah,
we
and
go
there
through
is a tendency to
heartbreak.
blame yourself through this, isn't it? You think, well, what have I done wrong? Did I let things go stale? Did I not pay them too much attention? What's the reason? But I think deep down, often people do see it coming. They know something's not right early on. And then if you see the warning signs, I think it's a good time to work on it early on. But sometimes you are hit absolutely out of the blue. Like you said, if someone's cheated on you, you had no idea that was happening. You just feel like you're second best. You don't feel great. So it can be hard for heartbreak when that happens because it's a more powerful thing if you don't see it coming. Do you think most people do see it coming, or is it a complete surprise? What do you think?
Yes, so I think it really also really depends on the person. But then when it is coming, it is actually also really good to, during your healing journey, also look back and also then analyze what was the reason also for the breakup. For instance, were there also some patterns, or also what we could have a look at is yeah, I mean patterns in general. So this is really also important to learn from mistakes that either our partner made or we made. This is
I think
really
any start
important.
of getting
Yes.
over heartbreak, a period of self-reflections is the important part. And we know everyone goes through different stages of grief and shock and all the rest of it. But when you are ready for this, and we'll talk about how to decide if you're ready shortly, but the first thing you should probably do is to cast that memory away. And I think the way that you can do that is to rebuild yourself is, and I think forgiveness is an important part of this. And to me, when I see forgiveness, it's not
Yeah.
just about forgiving your partner for leaving you or cheating on you. And if it is that case, then I think the best thing you can do, if you can't get the closure, if you can't get them to apologize, then let it go. Maybe write them a letter, tell them everything that you feel, unpack all your thoughts. Don't send the letter to them, just burn it. That way you can clear your head, get everything out there in the open. And the second part of this forgiveness, I would say, is purely about forgiving yourself. Don't be hard on yourself, because how are you going to rebuild? How are you going to come back stronger if you're constantly beating yourself up? Do you see that quite a bit of people just tormenting themselves?
Yes, absolutely. No, I mean it's so important also to work on that, and also to actually heal, and also to address your emotions and what you actually feel. So this for sure. And I would also say, even if you have these emotions of anger or of sadness, it's really also important to release the emotions and don't hold it back, because if you hold the emotions back, then they will still be with you, and they will actually come out on a later stage, or they will hinder you to go into a new relationship. So it's really important to release these emotions and also be certain about or address
Yeah,
what they
that's a
mean
great
for
point. I think you
you.
need to do that. You need to understand, and then you can truly move on from that. What strategies do you recommend to your clients when it comes to healing then? How can you start that healing process? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yes. It's also really important that you never go or do your healing journey on your own. So either it's really important to speak with friends, or also seek help of a coach. This is extremely important, because it's such a um, also can be such a devastating experience, and also really sad and anger. So it's really important to not go through it alone. But then, of course, first of all, I would always recommend also really cutting off all contact with the ex-partner. This really also means not checking in how they are, and also not yeah, wishing them for well for Christmas or birthday. So it's really no contact, because otherwise, if you keep contact and if you still know what's going on in their life, then there might be some subconscious wounds that will always come back, and that are always scratched open again. So I would say no contact is one of the most important strategies
I would
in
add to
your
that in terms
healing
of no
journey.
contact. Also, no stalking, no looking them up on social media. That's what everyone seems to do, don't they? They say, "What
Exactly.
is my ex up to? I'm going to look at them. Oh no, they put this
Yeah.
post up. Are they watching my posts? What am I going to do? Am I going to get a reaction out of them?" If you think there's a chance of getting back together, of course, that's valid. But in our episode today, this is people who realise this is the end of the road. This is a new beginning. So, do you see that people just stalking each other all the time?
Yes, of course. I think this is really also a point. And of course, there's all different kind of, I would say, yeah, ways how people deal with the breakup. I mean, either they could still be in contact and they could also be really good friends, or they could also even block each other. But either way, even if you're really good friends with your ex, it's not recommended because this could also even hinder you to go into a new healthy relationship, or your new partner might not be amused by that. And so it will always be a conflict a little bit if you have still your ex in your life. So the best is really to cut off contact completely, as you also say, also with social media. And of course, if there's children involved, of course, it's not always possible, but then you can also really set clear boundaries. For instance, only communicate organizational tasks around the children and not checking in with them or not being interested in their life anymore, and don't let them take
Yeah, I was
part
going to ask
into
you that.
your life.
It's not sometimes it's not possible to have complete no contact. Maybe you work together, you've got children, or maybe you have to still live together.
Exactly.
That's the worst, isn't it? If you haven't quite worked out your exit plan.
Yes, I would say this is very difficult, and then it's really also recommended to cut off the contact or find a new flat as soon as possible, or live with a friend during that
Yeah,
time. So I
definitely.
would really
And I
recommend
think
that.
we talked
Yes.
about just now about the whole reflection and no contact. That's a great time to think about your relationship before, like you said. And I wanted to ask you about how can, when you're reflecting on this, to make sure you don't make the same mistakes again, what do you think you can identify when it comes to an unhealthy relationship?
Yes, so of course there's several signs. I would say one of the most or one of the most important signs probably is if your partner is no longer your go-to person, meaning that you no longer get support or you no longer also seek support from your partner. So for instance, if you have an personal issue or a problem, and then you reach out to your best friend maybe, or to your family instead of your partner, because your partner should always be your first go-to and support person, also like in terms of I would say celebrations. So also in positive news, you should always seek support from your partner, and of course also vice versa. So I would say this is one of the signs, but then also when there's an enormous amount of conflict. So of course, conflict is healthy in healthy relationships. So it's also needed because we are also all different, have different perspectives, and also managing conflict in relationships is actually good. But if there's like too much conflict, it's
Yeah.
definitely also
And
not
again, I
healthy
think people do
anymore.
know if you're doing that and keeping track. I think it's an important thing to also keep track during the relationship about what's happening so you can reflect upon it afterwards. But if you haven't been doing that, if life's got in the way, there are other things you can do now to get over the heartbreak. For example, you can, like you said, talk to a coach, talk to someone that knows you really well to understand that. But also that journaling is quite a powerful tool as well, isn't it? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, no, I think journaling is extremely important, and actually also that you always repeat it. So, for instance, if you address your emotions, you can always do it every week, because then it also really helps you to reflect, and you really also see a progress when you do it regularly. So I would say journaling is really an important part, and of course everyone is different. So for some people, it might be a great strategy to do journaling. Others, they might prefer talking to a coach only, or talking to a friend only, and or releasing their emotions or healing in another way. But I would also definitely
It's
recommend
funny, journaling
trying
is one
out
of those things that
journaling.
comes up a lot on my podcast, and I have tried to do this myself, and I can never manage it more than a couple of days. Do you do it yourself?
Actually, I'm also a little bit a person for it. So sometimes I would actually do it, but I'm also more a person. I prefer to speak to a coach directly. So when I went through heartbreaks, I was also always doing coaching afterwards to really also have a look at the patterns, also have an analysis, and also, of course, also for self-growth, you will always also learn something about you, where you were, for instance, struggling or where you could improve, because, of course, also self-love, for instance, is a lifelong journey. So it's really needed. And always when we have support, external support, we
Yeah, I'm
always
probably the
grow
same. I think I'd
faster.
rather talk to somebody and externally than internalize it and just get it out, because then it's on your own, isn't it? And then you're fighting against yourself. But I think it can be a really, really useful tool as part of all that to do journaling. Even if you're single, looking again, make some notes about this. And I do give some of my clients little tasks to help them towards that, to sort of build up their confidence and to make sure they're moving forwards. And talking of moving forwards, how do you know when you are truly ready to move on and meet someone else?
Yes, yeah, no, this is a really important question. I mean, in particular, also for the matchmaking part, because clients always need to be ready. Because if you're not ready for a relationship, of course, then you might also find or choose the wrong partner. So, what's really important to determine if you are ready to move forward to a new relationship is actually if you still have emotions for your partner or not. So, basically, you should really be indifferent towards your partner with your emotions. This means that you are no longer sad or you're no longer angry about your partner, but also not in a positive way. So you're not attached to them anymore in any way, because then you are really ready also to give your emotions and also give your attention to someone else, to a new partner. And it will no longer, like the past will no longer influence your presence, because otherwise, if you still think about your ex or you might still like them, then you might compare a new partner to them. And this is then always this comparison trap. I mean, there's different reasons how it could not work out if you're still attached to your ex, or if you still have this emotional
I do think
baggage.
sometimes it's human nature. Even if you're in a happy, strong relationship, there are moments that are going to remind you of past partners, good and bad. You're going to go to a certain restaurant and have, oh, I met here with my ex before. You're going to think about a holiday, and little memories are going to pop up. But that is just absolutely normal. And again, don't torment yourself over that. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I think as well, but and also it makes a difference how you categorize and how you define the memory, because it could well be that you were at this restaurant with your ex and yes, you remember that, but it just feels then indifferent to you. So you're no longer sad about it, because if you go to the restaurant and you cry out and you cry in tears, and this means you're still really attached to your ex, and or I mean in a sad way maybe then. And this would also not be beneficial to move forward and to go into a new relationship. So you really need to have this indifference and just have it as a memory in your mind. It can also be a positive memory, but just
No,
no emotions
it's fine to
around it.
realize that even if it was a bad relationship, there were always some good times you had there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have stayed together to get to the
Yeah.
situation where you do care about the heartbreak. So it's absolutely normal. You will have these things, but the idea is to build new memories with your new partner as you go forward and accept it. You think, well, that was fun. That was in the past. I want to focus on what I can do now to make sure my future is the best possible way, and that's absolutely fine. I think to do that, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, and I was also about
No,
another reason to have no contact, because you don't want to keep thinking about the wrong people all the time. You can't meet someone new if you're thinking about people that are old in your life. I mean, yeah,
yeah. Really true. Yes, absolutely. And I think what is also very true, in particular, in terms of these toxic relationships that you just addressed, that you also always have to think, yes, there were good memories, but then you also really have to think, what did they actually do? So, what did they actually show in terms of love? Did they actually show the love? So, the actions count, because sometimes we always focus a lot on words, and we focus about what they said to us and they told us they love us, but the reality is it was a toxic relationship, and probably they didn't show us love and the actions and words didn't match. So I think this is also an important point to always consider when looking back
Absolutely.
at the
Now,
past
you
relationship.
mentioned love there. I think the strongest part of love to rebuild yourself and to move on is self love, isn't it? That's what it is. And that phrase is thrown around left,
Absolutely.
right, and
Yes.
centre nowadays: self love, self care. What does that mean to you? And how can you rebuild your self love if you've been a bit hurt and damaged?
Yes, absolutely. No, self-love is really so important. So for me, it really also means that everyone who loves themselves is happy on their own. So basically, you're not dependent on someone to fulfill your needs, and also to really love yourself or give you the love you need. So you're not seeking external validation, because if you're seeking this external validation, or if you're too dependent on the partner, and then you always expect them to fulfill your needs, it might be also a very toxic and relationship. So it can really as well only be a healthy relationship if you love yourself and also your partner also has this
Yeah,
self-love
and you can
for
tell that
him or
really, can't
her.
you, quite quickly if they've got self love and self confidence and all the selves that come into this, because
Yeah.
they will demonstrate that and reflect it, mirror it back to you. The way that they're treating you is often a reflection of how they feel deep inside. If they're a little bit too needy, that tells you all you need to know in itself. But each person's different. I think you will attract somebody if you radiate that yourself, self confidence. And someone said this on my podcast recently that I quite like, so I'm going to repeat it now. It's not about faking confidence or faking it till you make it. It is simply knowing that in the near future you will be confident, you'll be self-aware, you'll have complete self-love. It is stepping to that a little bit early. That's all it is. You're taking on that role and you're just accepting it before it even happens. That's the magic of that. But let's talk also about, you mentioned healthy relationships there. What else can you do to truly attract an ultimately healthy relationship?
Yes, I think it's also about the mindset. So in general, being positive, but like also truly positive, because often people, they really want a positive partner, but then they are not positive themselves. And so it's always really about being first the person you want to attract yourself. That's why, of course, self-love is so important. But also if you seek certain traits such as positivity, and positivity is extremely important in dating. So I would say this is one point where people should really focus on. And if they are not positive, then you really also have to work on it and see why, or how can you fulfill your needs in another way, that what makes you happy, what is your love language, also to really get to know yourself more, how
Very
to
much so.
fulfill your
And it's
love.
building upon that as the foundation and then going out there and doing that. But when you do meet somebody new, because you might be very hesitant to actually let your guard down, which is normal. How do you know that someone's truly compatible?
Yes, so this is of course also very important for matchmaking part. So what we always do is also, it's science-based, of course. So it's also having a look at the values, so that the values are truly compatible. But then also, what's also really important, and we were just talking about, is really also fulfilling the needs. So that your partner is also really willing to fulfill your needs. And of course, there's no person can fulfill your needs immediately and always, all the time. This will never be the case. That's why self-love is so important. But of course, shared values and also the needs are that they are met, or over time probably done, or in other ways as you would have expected. This is really important. So we always, I would say, the shared values. This is really the basis of a compatible relationship. Then, of course, also personality, communication style, also lifestyle needs to align. Um, a lot of points
I
should be
think giving it
considered.
time is
Yeah.
important too, because all those things are absolutely essential. But you're not always going to know what someone's like, and I see a problem with this. I see a lot of people who've been hurt badly. They will self sabotage. That's my word of the year, amongst other ones, and well, two words, isn't it? But they will rule people out too quickly. And you must see this in your matchmaking business as well. They will not trust you. They say, well,
Yeah.
that person's not right, and they will rule them out. and that's just protecting themselves. What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I also believe that's very true. And I think there's also this case when people they make decisions too quickly when they think there's not the sparks because they would expect the sparks fly, but in reality, in most healthy relationships, they really actually also start slowly and you begin to get to know the other person slowly. And everyone also has a different dating speed. So some people take longer to open up, also to be vulnerable. And you also need to see the person in different situation. So I believe it's really important also to give it time and also don't rush the dating process. And also don't rush to get to know the person. I mean, in particular, also in the very beginning of the dating phase, people always try to find out as soon as possible how are they, and always checking a checklist or ticking off this checklist. So this is not really helpful for dating, and it's so important to date
What to
slowly
you is the
and give it
perfect
time.
date
Yeah.
for the first date?
So I believe the very first date is should always be a date where you really also have the opportunity to speak more in a quiet setting, I would say. So that is like a quite relaxed setting where you really feel comfortable. So for instance, if you know you really like this casual brunch place, then it should be nice to go there because then you feel relaxed and you feel at ease. I believe it's really important to also concentrate and focus on the fun part of dating, in particular in the very beginning for the first date. And then, of course, also integrate activities because activities are also so great to get to know the other person. But for the very first date, I would always recommend a setting where you both can talk at
I
ease
agree.
and
Nowhere
to have
too
fun
noisy
together.
because it's the communication, it's the eye contact. It all ties in together to make sure it works. And I think fun is the magic
Yeah.
word, and I try and teach people that all the time. Because for a lot of people, dating isn't fun. If you've had your heart broken, dating is going to be a bit traumatic to start with. But I think it's going
Yes.
out there, having those experiences, meeting new people, and realizing there's lots more opportunities out there. That makes it all fun. And I think we're in a great position that we give them that encouragement right at the start to go out there and do this. But so, what ways do you
Yeah.
recommend people do start again? Where do you think dating apps, matchmaking events? What do you think is the best way to meet people?
Yeah, I think in 2025, it's really the go-to is really
Yeah,
real life matchmaking events. So I would say always also focus on what you really like. So for instance, if you really like to play golf or tennis, then I would also go to a tennis event or to a golf tournament. And then you would find someone who might also fit well to your lifestyle and maybe also to your values. So I believe also really in this real life connection or meet someone through a friend or also similar, of course, through a matchmaker. If you're really busy, matchmaker is very similar if you would meet someone through a friend, actually. And the dating apps, of course, they are really declining and everyone is really complaining about them. So I would really focus on these real life events. And what I also always really like and recommend to my clients are actually also business events. Because if you want to find someone like-minded, then you also know they also have a great background and you might even also have a nice, interesting topic to talk about because there will always also be a presentation. So this is also a great
I love that. I
opportunity
think
to meet
real life
people.
events are definitely the way forwards, and also matchmaking, of course. And you mentioned there like business events, and
Yeah.
the the hesitation I hear from my clients is, well, if I go there, how do I know that people are single or not? If they're not wearing wedding rings, how do I know? I might embarrass myself. The reality is, you go there, you just go there and you be friendly, you talk to everybody. Even if you talk to somebody and they happen to be married, they might have a brother or a friend or someone they can introduce you to once they entrust you. And all you're doing, you're opening doors and you're creating opportunities. So whatever you do out there, I think it's important that you just do something, and that's something I tell all my clients: just get the doors opened. Do all you can actually. If you can afford a matchmaker, go with a matchmaker. Get some dating coaching, someone like me, and go to real life events. Do the dating apps. As terrible as they are an opportunity, and I think opportunities is making your own luck. So obviously you agree with that.
No, absolutely. I totally believe you're the creator of your own life and you should really do what is right for you. Of course, also having a clear vision and also really knowing who your ideal partner is the first starting point before going out, because then you also know where you could find them, which event could be the event, which friend cycle could be the friend cycle that your ideal partner is. So I
Definitely
believe
is.
that's
And
really
one
important.
last thing for everyone listening. I want to make you all a promise. And if you're going through heartbreak right now in a recent situation, I can absolutely promise you that at some point in the future, you will meet somebody else who will make you forget all this and you will go through it. Heartbreak is an important part of our lives. It has to teach us what we want and what we don't want, but it's a way of showing you when you do meet the right person, that person's the right one for you. And I see this time and time again, and I'm sure you do as well every day. People do meet new people, but at the moment you're thinking, well, I'm a bit stuck. Go out there and do something. Reach out to someone, do what you can, and I absolutely promise you that this will all be forgotten about one day. It's a temporary phase that you need to go through. So take some action. And talking of taking action, Elena, I do ask all my guests towards the end of each podcast about what you might do in terms of your daily habits and routines. So what do you like to do? What do you have any structure, anything you enjoy doing?
Yes, so actually, I'm not really a person of structure in my personal life because I really like to go with the flow. But nevertheless, I have some routine. So, for instance, if I really want to focus, I would meditate. And I'm a big fan of meditation because it can help us so much to also focus and also to actually go for goals. So, also for goal setting, meditation is really great. And it can help you a lot in business, in your private life, to regain energy even. So
Do you do
I
guided
would love to do
meditations
that
or do it in
always.
on your own?
Yes, I actually love guided meditation.
Yeah, they're
So
useful.
this is
I've
what
been
I
trying
would
to do
do.
more and more meditations, and it's difficult for me to do it. But I found that if you just take 10, 15 minutes, lie on the floor, lie on your bed, sit in a chair, put something on. YouTube's absolutely full of good ones. If you find one that you like, just store it and keep doing it and change things up a little bit. It's getting yourself the first few minutes through that process. I tell you what I did recently. Actually, I did something called a sound bath. Have you heard of sound baths? And we did it. It's when you just lie on a mat. You lie in a on the floor somewhere, and then someone goes around with a bowl and they bang this bowl and it
Mhm.
resonates at certain frequencies and they play relaxing music. And to start with, my brother and I were there. We just laughed our way through this for the first few minutes, giggling to ourselves, how immature little children, how silly this whole thing was. But within 5 minutes, we were both so chilled out, meditating, just relaxed. There was about 20 people doing it in the same way. So I do recommend sound baths.
Yeah, yes.
It was.
Very
I think the
nice.
next
That
level
sounds
up
also
from that would be
great.
to have
Yeah.
some nice candles, maybe some chocolate, all these sort of things. But it helps you just try new things out. Maybe that's a good way to meet new people. Go to sound baths, single sound baths. Maybe I'll launch that at some point in the future. That'd be cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, nevertheless, I mean, no matter how you are active, it's so
yeah. Just
important
go
to
out there
be
and
active
take
and
the
meet
first
people.
action
Yeah.
today. Now, Elena, how does somebody find out about you or your company?
So we are really very present as well on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So on social media, we are great there. But then also, of course, if you Google Match Maison, you will also find us. So most of the people they also approach us because they hear through friends,
Amazing. And
or
I will
also
put the
they would
links in
Google
the
it.
notes, of course, for anyone listening. But thank you so much for joining me today. What a fun conversation this was. Always good to empower and to inspire people. And I hope we do more things together. And I wish you a great rest of the day. Thank you. Bye for
Thanks so
now.
much, James. Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.